across the country and around the world, this is Anderson Cooper 360.
Leaders across the Muslim world are furious at Pope Benedict XVI tonight. They want an apology from the Roman Catholic leader for what they call a character assassination of the Prophet Muhammad and a smear campaign. With more on the controversy, here's CNN's Faith and Values correspondent Delia Gallagher.
Pope Benedict XVI was speaking in front of a familiar crowd at a university in his native Germany. But his comments caused outrage among Muslims around the world, comments they saw as insulting to the Prophet Muhammad.
Show me just what Muhammad brought that was new, and there you will find things only evil and inhumane, such as his command to spread by the sword the faith he preached.
The words weren't his. In fact, the pontiff was quoting a 14th century Byzantine emperor when he spoke about jihad and holy war and the role of violence in Islam. But Muslim reaction to those words was swift and angry. The Pope has dishonored our prophet. He said our prophet was a terrorist and had used a sword. That anger erupted not only in the streets, but in the mosque. The imam of this Egyptian mosque says the Pope's remarks show ignorance and could worsen relations between Christians and Muslims. Governments in many largely Muslim countries also reacted angrily. Pakistan's parliament criticized the Pope for what it called his derogatory comments. Turkey, a predominantly Muslim, though secular nation, demanded an apology from the Vatican. It's especially awkward because the Pope has scheduled a visit there in November, designed to help improve communication between Christians and Muslims. This member of parliament calls the Pope's remarks arrogant, his approach hostile, and said he took an unfortunate stance which fuels religious fights. Vatican spokesman Federico Lombardi defended the Pope's comments, but did not offer an apology.
It was certainly not the intention of the Holy Father to undertake a comprehensive study of the jihad and of Muslim ideas on the subject, still less to offend the sensibilities of Muslim faithful.
These controversial comments made by a religiously conservative pope could undermine strides made by his predecessor. Pope John Paul II was the first pope to set foot in a mosque on a visit to Syria in 2001. And some Vatican analysts say, though this pope is open to discussions with other faiths, his approach will be decidedly different.
Pope has made it clear that he continues to want to have serious, sustained dialogue with the other religions of the world, including Islam. On the other hand, I think it is also clear, and I think this has to be said, that there is a sense in which Benedict is a bit more hawkish on Islam than John Paul II was.
The Vatican says the Pope's speech was really about starting a discussion. Officials hope now that one centuries-old quote won't override his message. Delia Gallagher, CNN, New York.
Joining me now is Ahmed Younis. He is the National Director of the Muslim Public Affairs Council. Ahmed, the Vatican has said that this speech was meant to be an academic discussion to cultivate a position of respect and dialogue toward other religions and cultures, including Islam. The Pope quoted an emperor who died 600 years ago. They weren't the Pope's words, it was a quote. Help us to understand why so much outrage among Muslims at this.
Well, it's actually very interesting. It's because of the role of the Pope's comments in bolstering the very worldview, the narrative that is posited by the most extreme in Muslim societies, the people that are engaging in violence as a means of change, that there is in fact a clash of civilizations, that there is an abode of war that is fueled by a fundamentalist Christianity that is fighting the abode of peace or the abode of Muslims, and that the extremists have to engage on behalf of the majority of Muslims in the defense of the integrity of the religion, the tradition of the Prophet, and the words of the Quran. So what we expect from a Pope, as people of faith, as people of Muslim faith or Jewish faith or what have you, is a reasonable contribution to the conversation, saying there is no clash of civilizations, there is a clash amongst extremists, and we as the vast majority of moderates that are fighting extremism in our mosques, that are trying to make sure that our youth are not radicalized, we as moderates are not bolstered by this kind of speech.
Ahmed Younis, do you really believe that the Pope's intent was to disparage Islam?
No, not at all. I don't have any evidence to say so, and I think this is something that can be resolved with a contribution that's much more impactful than an apology, and that is a real ignition for a dialogue of civilizations, a dialogue between Catholics and Muslims that is seen personally to by the Pope to succeed in the future. What we have to do is maintain the cohesion of our religious pluralisms globally. We have to be the moderates of all faiths, saying to extremists, your narrative is not correct. It is the narrative of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and the narrative of the Quran that we all endorse.
So what are you suggesting? That the Vatican try to convene some sort of a summit so that people from different religions, including perhaps Christianity, maybe the Jewish faith and the Islamic faith, can get together and they can talk about these issues?
Well, absolutely. I think that would be a very good start. A dialogue between these groups of people, as many people around the world are calling for, is the way for us to move beyond these kinds of commentaries that really only do what we don't want to do, which is bolster the ability of the extremists to maintain the tone and tenor of the conversation.
Immediately, what has this done to relations between Muslims and the Vatican? Benedict's predecessor, for instance, Pope John Paul II, worked very hard to try to build bridges between the two religions.
I think this is a clear statement, and as I just said, it might have been very much negligent, but I think this is a statement to the majority of Muslims that there will be a shift in policy, and that the tradition of John Paul II of engaging with Muslim communities on issues that affect Muslim communities globally is a policy that is being left, and a new policy is being adopted in which the Pope of all people might begin to take a hawkish position towards Muslims.
Right. Well, certainly the Vatican under a lot of pressure tonight to somehow make this right. Ahmed Younis of the Muslim Public Affairs Council, thanks for being with us tonight to try to help us understand all of this. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, John.
Less controversy about some medical news tonight, but plenty of mystery. A startling discovery on the power of the human brain.